But so that takes us on to our next one. We've got quite a lot of topics to actually cover today, so we'll crack on. Next one. So we mentioned this very briefly in the pre-show, and so we'll talk about it very briefly now. Venom as Venom. So I actually thought it was going to be released on Friday.
So did I.
Yeah, and so it's available now to watch at the cinemas. Like, I know the reviews
it came out today.
So obviously, when I was putting this topic together, obviously, I was like, oh, cool. Venom is one of my favourite Spider-Man villains, especially from the '90s cartoon series. If you never watched that, great. Especially with the symbiote outfit and everything like that, it's amazing. So when they announced this, I thought, actually, we'll give Sony another go. Because obviously the Amazing Spider-Man films that they did weren't great. Obviously they've done a deal with Marvel now. They've passed Spider-Man over to Marvel. We don't know how long for, but there's some deals and money exchange happening there. But Sony still own the whole of the Spider-Man franchise. So they actually have access to all these villains and everything like that. And it's up to them what they wish to do with them, and it's nothing to do with Marvel. Marvel have to agree it with Sony if they use any of Spider-Man's villains. So obviously they announced the Venom film, and I was like, oh, okay. And then Tom Hardy, I was like, pretty good actor. You know, I could see him in that role. But before we go any further, I want to pass over to you guys. Not taking in any of the reviews that have now been launched. We'll chat about those in a second, which came out today. What was your initial thoughts when you heard about and saw the trailers for Venom? Richard, would you like to go first?
Yeah. To be honest, it was one of confusion as to how they were even going to attempt this film.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know little bits about Spider-Man, not clued up on everything to do with it, but I know obviously who Venom was from the comics, and then kind of in Spider-Man 3. Which, yeah. But yeah, I was always unsure how it was going to be done. And without going into them too early, I think that's the general consensus of the reviews that have come out, is that it's not been done right, whatever they did decide to do.
Ed, what were your initial thoughts when they announced the Venom film and released the trailers?
I didn't need it. That was the thing, is that I want Venom to be in a Tom Holland movie. I don't want Venom to appear by himself. I love what they've created in the MCU with Spider-Man. I don't need Venom. I remember that. So the way they did Venom's origin story in Spider-Man 3 was exactly how I remember it from the cartoon. Like to be fair to Sam Raimi's entire trilogy, it's almost like frame perfect in terms of what they did in the animated series. So
it's like ripping off the suit in the bell tower. Yeah.
I had that on VHS. Like, I've seen that episode and that saga so many times. I know it backwards. And in the Sam Raimi one, they did it okay. Obviously, it was part of a generally worse film. And there were lots of other studio problems that led to that happening. But with this, Tom Hardy is a good actor. I don't want to talk about the reviews too much, but the one thing that does seem to have come from it is that Tom Hardy is the saving grace of that movie, in the same way that Martin Freeman was for the Hobbit movies, and that his acting and the fact that he is a good actor means he portrays the character quite well, even if the character is kind of unlikable and a bit annoying. But I didn't see the point, and also just from the trailers, the CGI looked kind of
I to be honest, like you said, with the Tom Holland thing, like to be honest, like the Spider-Man that, like you said, the MCU have created is amazing, and
perfect.
The best proof of that is I actually showed it to my girlfriend literally last week. I sat down and watched. I was like, "Do you mind if we watch Spider-Man?" She hates superhero films. She does not like them, and I was like, she wasn't feeling right well, and she was just sat on the sofa, not really with it, and she was just like, "Yeah, whatever." I was like, hey, so I put Spider-Man on, and she actually got to the end of it. She went, oh, quite good that. I was like, you weren't asleep.
Because it's a good film. It's well crafted. It's joyful. It's well paced. It's got one of the greatest scenes ever with the confrontation with Michael Keaton's character. It's great.
And Michael Keaton as well, being just an unbelievable Vulture villain who, to be honest, if someone says to you, we're going to put Vulture in it, you go, really?
Why?
Yeah. Do we need him? But then Michael Keaton comes on and does it in a way that you actually understand where the villain is coming from. To a point where even when he threatens Peter Parker, if you haven't seen the film, sorry, Peter Parker in the car and says, listen...
What a scene.
Brilliant.
He actually lets him go. He says, listen, just leave, get out of the car.
You saved my daughter.
Yeah, just don't interfere with my life any further because I will kill you. And to be honest, for a villain to actually turn around and say to the person who's been fucking up his situation for the last how many weeks or whatever, and just let him go, where it's like a lot of money on the line here, and he could actually be arrested, which, and he just lets him go. And you start thinking at this point, going, holy shit, like, the villain is one terrifying, but you relate
all of
to
that
him.
moment.
And you're like going,
so mad.
You would be exactly the same if you were in that situation where your family's on the line, your freedom's on the line. You got screwed over by the state, and how Iron Man with the Avengers and the government, and this is where you managed to bounce back and actually be able to create a living for yourself. Yes, technically illegal. Well, it is illegal, but
literally illegal.
Literally illegal, not technically by it. But you can relate to that and be like, you would do anything for your family. And at this point, you're thinking, holy shit. So if they managed to... It's a shame that they, instead of Sony deciding to go off on their own to say, we're going to do a Venom movie, it's like, why didn't you just say to the MCU and say, listen, because apparently something to do with the deal with Spider-Man Homecoming was that actually Marvel put up the money for the Homecoming, and then pretty much Sony got a lot of the profit, if I remember correctly. That's how it's all. But it was to do with the deal with that they would then give Marvel Spider-Man for the MCU. That's basically that. I think that's it's very blasé way of saying it, but that's sort of covering it very loosely. What sort of happened? Now it's a shame they couldn't do something similar with the Venom movie, where let's bring in Tom Holland, like you say, and let's redo the origin to a correct retelling of how the comics were. And like you said, I was a big, as obviously you were already saying, like with the animated 90s TV series, if we could redo that, it's just, I feel like they've...
Without the appalling voice performance. I forgot, there's this one scene where he's in the black suit and he's chasing Shocker up the bell tower before the scene where he rips it off. And it's the most overacted line in the history of man. It's him going, get back here, Shocker, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth. Yeah. But it's the most guttural, throated scream, like a death metal vocalist is doing it. And you're just going, what? This isn't Spider-Man, what's happening?
It's weird, because in that actual cartoon, it suddenly switches. Because he goes from being like Peter Parker, like in the Spider-Man suit, to something like, get back here, Shocker! Shocker!
It's very weird.
If you've never seen it, guys, seriously, if anybody on the if you've never seen the animated 90s series, I think it's like a 5-parter. I'm sure you'll find it on the internet now. Definitely worth a watch. That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
He's got a reddish blue.
It's just, I'd love to see the symbiote outfit as well.
I'm just, honestly, I'm more excited about the new Spider-Man film, even though Venom's out now. I would much rather go and... Yeah, Mysterio, exactly. I would much rather see that.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
Have you seen the pictures, the leaked photos that have come out this week about it?
Footage?
I didn't see the footage. I didn't realize there was footage.
Footage of Mysterio helmetless versus Spider-Man in a fairground on fire.
Well, I know what I'm going to be watching after the live stream. Straight on there.
It's not very good footage. It's just like Mysterio is down on one knee, like looking up towards Spider-Man in this flaming. I think Mysterio in the comics always goes to has his thing at fairgrounds. He's like the Joker
and does the laugh. Ha ha ha! Spider-Man! Like,
because I remember Mysterio from the Spider-Man 2 game. Even though he wasn't in the film, he was one of the main baddies in that game. And he was always just playing these elaborate tricks, basically.
Yeah. Well, basically, as I said, like, the reviews have dropped today, and it's not looking good for Venom. I believe IGN gave it a 4 out of 10, which apparently equivalents to their bad. And as Ed says, Tom Hardy is apparently the best aspect of the film. The good bits are literally because of him. And... apparently, with a lot of the reviews, pretty much summed it up like it feels very much a 90s superhero film, where it hasn't taken any notice of how to do a superhero film correctly. It's just kind of taken a massive step back, which I kind of think it sums up that Sony should just leave the superhero genre to Disney and Marvel. DC,
I think so.
DC Comics, they obviously Warner Brothers have tried to do superheroes themselves. That's a whole different kettle of fish, but they're struggling to get it right. Marvel have managed to carve a particular style which some people find boring, which is fair enough because sometimes some of the films can be a little bit samey, but it works and it sells, and hopefully
it really does.
and hopefully just Sony go, you know what, guys, you just have everything else as well. Just give us a bit of a cut. Like, there you go. Like Tom Hardy, you're going to Disney. There you go. There you go. So we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, if you guys see it, let us know though. And everybody in the comments, if you are going to go see it, let us know down in the comments. And hopefully we haven't put you off. And maybe on the next live stream episode, if any of us have seen it,
I almost went and saw it today. Literally, a mate and we literally looked at the viewings for it and thought, I'm not paying to go and watch this. We looked at all the reviews, and admittedly, there's some story about them being bots, maybe, that were doing bad reviews. Who's going out of their way to do that? It's not
going out of their way to put them on some of the big websites.
Yeah. It's really weird. I couldn't be bothered to spend money on that, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. But yeah, let us know, guys. If you see it and you like it, let us know what you like about it.